This is The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com. Episode 199, recorded March 23rd, 2019. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I am your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So today we are going to talk about The Magicians, as usual. I also want to note, though, before we start, that this is our 199th episode of the podcast, meaning next week will be our 200th episode. And for our 200th episode, we will be playing a round of Advocates of Great Television. For those of you who do not know, this means that we will each pick an episode and a TV show. So a series and an episode of that series, and then we will watch all of them and discuss them on the next podcast. The episodes we have selected for next week's podcast are The Marvelous Ms. Maisel, Season 1, Episode 1, Pilot, The Umbrella Academy, Season 1, Episode 1, We Only See Each Other at Weddings and Funerals, and Rectify, Season 1, Episode 1, Always There. The Marvelous Ms. Maisel can be found on Amazon Prime, and both The Umbrella Academy and Rectify are available on Netflix. So tune in and watch those episodes and join us on our 200th episode, and we'll be discussing those three. We're going to be joined by a special guest for that episode, Nick. He has joined us before. He was on, I believe, our last Advocates episode. So tune in next week for that. Let's get on to The Magicians. We're going to be talking about Season 4, Episode 9, The Serpent. And this was an episode that kind of, it was just kind of a little bit looser. Like, it was tying some ends together for plot lines that are coming together later on. Like, there wasn't a lot, like, really big in this episode itself, so much as, like, setup stuff for stuff that's coming up. Mainly is that, I believe, in next week's episode, which we won't be talking about for 2 weeks, because, as I said, we're going to be doing our 200th episode next week. But, next week's episode, I believe, is another musical episode.
Which is gonna be good.
Yeah. And, you know, that's, when you do a special episode like that, you usually also try to kind of add in some really dramatic scenes and stuff too. Some really big moments. So that, it really has that kick. The sad thing is it leaves this episode feeling like, you know, about like the second episode in a row where it just kind of feels like mostly set up. But the good thing is that it's good setup, and it means we have stuff coming.
Right, exactly.
There's some interesting developments that are kind of pushing things forward. So right off the bat, we should note, you know, the monster appeared in this episode, the Elliot monster. He wasn't in it too much. The episode didn't really have that much of a focus on him. But one part of the story did involve Penny kind of like helping him as a role as like a psychic, because he's trying to unlock memories in his head.
Memories in his head, and he gets the idea. Monster gets the idea to take psychics and use them to help him unlock the memories in his head. But he is so powerful, he kills everybody.
Yeah, they just go into seizures and die.
Yeah.
They can't handle his power. So, Penny ends up volunteering himself as somebody who's a little bit more powerful because he's a magician as well, and a traveler. He's more used to it. He's got more strength for it to handle it, to do that. And in doing so, we get to see kind of like the moment that seems to be tied to the monster's creation, or the monster's whatever was taken from him, or what happened there. We see the gods kind of gathered around a woman, and they're doing something that doesn't look too great. The monster doesn't look happy about the way they're treating her, which is the first time we've seen him show concern for somebody else. If it is somebody else, that could be the monster, for all we know.
Right.
But there is like a reaction that he's having to it. But Penny's time there is cut short because he notices a door pop up. and he heads out into the door
to the sanctuary in Elliot's psyche, where Elliot is hiding.
And he has a little conversation with Elliot that we're not really privy to. We don't really get much of what's going on with their conversation.
Well, because like almost as soon as Penny leaves, the monster like notices he's gone and starts looking for him. So Penny kind of has to be like, "Yeah, I gotta get out there and be present, otherwise, he's gonna go on a rampage."
Yeah. So he can't stand there that long, but even the time that he does stay in there, there's some information that's passed on that we don't get initially in that scene. We get it later. But basically, the monster gets out of there. He ends up revealing what the monster gains from the experiences. He knows who has the last piece.
Yeah.
And he knows that that is the last piece, that there is only that one piece remaining. And now he's really excited to get it back. Penny breaks the news to her, Penny breaks the news to them.
After Penny wakes up from being knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, from being like kind of having his own little seizure because of the monster's power.
Yeah.
He has a moment where he informs them that this is not to build a body. These parts, they don't come together to create a body. That's not what it is. He said it's something much worse.
Right.
And we're left with that cryptic hint.
Yeah, that's all we get from that.
We know that Elliot knows what's going on. We know like Penny knows what's going on now. And apparently Penny's told them, but we didn't get that information parsed out to us yet as the viewers. But now we know that, all is not as it seems. I have a feeling that girl that was being tortured by the gods is the Elliot monster.
Right, I think so.
And that it isn't necessarily somebody that was super powerful that, had something powerful taken from them. More along the lines of, it was somebody that had somebody normal that had something horrible done to them that resulted in them becoming like a monster. Right. That's kind of what I'm getting from it now. But I could be wrong. I thought that the thing in the dreams was going to be one of the main characters.
And you were
instead of some cat creature. So I can be wrong. But yeah, that was that storyline.
Speaking of dreams and cat creatures and prophecies that they lead to, that's a good segue.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger storylines in the episode. It had to do with Margot and Fen.
Yeah,
Fen is trying to deal with the responsibility she feels is now thrust upon her that she has to dethrone Margot.
And apparently, Fen isn't the only one who got this prophecy dream, because the queen of a neighboring kingdom also got the same prophecy.
We should note a neighboring kingdom that has special weapons that can exorcise demons from people.
Right, yes.
Which ties into another plot line quite nicely that we had just talked about.
And we just talked about, conveniently enough.
Yes. But we should talk about, before this even happened, they got the news finally. Margot and Fen and everybody got the news that Elliot is alive. Because Quentin was able to send a bunch of those rabbits that sound like Beaver from Breaking Bad.
Yes. Quentin was able to send a rabbit to send rabbits to let everybody know that Elliot is still alive. So Margot gets the news that Elliot is still alive, while at the same time she also gets the news from Josh, who overhears Fen talking. She gets the news from Josh that Fen is attempting to overthrow her. So she gets these two pieces of news at the same time, and the Elliot news kind of has an effect on how she reacts to the Fen news.
Mm-hmm. Well, she ends up, at first she's kind of like, well, we're gonna have a party and expose the duplicitous bitch.
Right.
That she's trying to get. Poor Fen, on the meantime, is like, she doesn't, she was overheard in the conversation talking about it, but she doesn't want to do it. She's like, the one woman that's there from the neighboring country is like, and then I'll invite my soldiers in, and Fen cuts her off. It's all to enjoy dessert.
Yeah, to enjoy dessert, and she's like, that wasn't how I was gonna finish that sentence.
So you couldn't actually think that was how I was going to finish that sentence.
Yeah,
I was hoping.
I was hoping.
So Fen's wrestling with this the whole time. They're having the party. This is all coming down. She's like, doesn't want to do this. But then Margot has a moment where she realizes that she's going to be able to have a way to save Elliot, but she has to go on this journey into this other land. And so she can't do that as the High King of Fillory. So she's like, she ends up talking to Fen, and Fen's like, she's like, I know what you're trying to do. And Fen's like, oh God. And then she's like, and you need to do it now. Because I need to get to this other kingdom and work on this problem and help Elliot. So Fen got her easy out, her bloodless win over that, but Margot didn't go out with a whimper. She she went out cursing everybody's name for dramatic effect, which was hilarious.
Yeah. So she exiled herself so she can go and try and save Elliot.
Yes. What was great though is also, and I think it's going to tie into the musical episode next week, is that on her way out, Josh, who, by the way, they hooked up again in this episode when she got her news about Elliot.
They're as of this episode, they're officially a thing.
Yeah.
Any question that what happened would be a one-time thing, or would they still be friends, or would it be weird? It's full on a thing now.
But what I think is going to play into the musical episode is that Josh gave her a little parting gift on her way out, which is
he gave her an iPod
with some 80s ballads on it.
80s songs on it, yes.
So she exits Fillory to the tune of We Belong.
Which was nice.
Which I think that's what's going to play. And I think the next episode's going to be a bunch of 80s ballads in the musical, and it's going to be related to her iPod.
And I think you are correct.
It makes sense. It feels like a good setup for that. But because if you remember, what was the best musical moment from the last musical episode of The Magicians? It was Under Pressure.
Under Pressure, yeah.
So they know their niche. They're going to do musical numbers, but they're not going to do Broadway themes and shit. They're going to do 80s ballads and stuff. 80s rock ballads. But yeah, so that's that storyline. What else do we have going on? We had a storyline involving Alice again. Yep. This time she's trying to help the head librarian Zelda again. Zelda ends up I guess I should start with the way the scene starts is that Zelda's trying to do the spell to get her daughter back. The thing that helped her.
But the problem is that her daughter is split. The aspects of her are split by the mirror realm. So when she tries to pull her daughter out, three versions of her are coming out at different places.
Yeah. And then at the same time as this is going on, Katie and all of them are having a conversation with Alice.
Oh yeah, there's also this problem Katie's dealing because there is a terrorist organization killing hedge witches with these worms that basically make you disintegrate or something when they try to use magic.
Yeah, if you use magic when these worms are in you, you'll die this horrible, horrific, painful death.
Yeah, you will. It will not be good. So,
and the problem is that people that have been using magic for so long, it's almost just like breathing to them. They do little bits of magic here and there, just constantly without even thinking about it. Right. So they might know, oh, I can't use magic now, but that doesn't mean they're not going to slip up. That would be like me saying, Will, you can never step with your right foot first,
Right. Exactly.
You could try to be conscious of that, but eventually you're going to slip up,
Eventually you are going to slip up. Yeah, exactly.
So this is a big threat, and they discover that the best way to deal with this is that they need more magic, first off. And the way they can do this is they need to be able to have a better access to magic. Alice brings up, in her begging for forgiveness from Katie and getting a good slap in the face that she deserves, she ends up bringing up about how her friend had found a pipe, and then she was able to open that up and get more magic out. And that was the one person she knew that could do that, but that there's a system of those pipes and that they need access to it. And the only way they're going to be able to find it is with an informant in the library. They need a rat.
And they need a rat. And so Alice decides Zelda could be the rat, but she needs leverage. Now she has leverage.
Yes. Cause not only right after this moment, but that's when, Harriet, I believe her name is.
Yes.
Yes, Harriet, Zelda's daughter, appears in a mirror in front of, Alice. Yes. And Alice realizes, oh, okay.
She knows what's going on.
And thankfully, Katie knows sign language, so she's able to kind of translate what Harriet's saying. And now they know that they do have leverage, so they're going to position this another deal with Zelda.
Yeah, so they corner Zelda into another deal, and then in exchange, Alice agrees to help pull Zelda's daughter out in the mirror realm, and also bring together the 3 different aspects of her into one person, which involves, using a crystal. This does not go as planned, because as Alice is attempting the spell, I guess like she uses too much magic, or something happens where the crystal explodes, and Alice tries to like fix it, and she touches it, and it splits Alice into 2 different aspects.
Yes, one that's kind of like her more cold, logical side, and the other that's kind of the part of her that's like afraid, and has more of her humanity.
Right. So it's the part of her that's confident and calculating, but cold, and then the other part of her that's fearful and afraid, but also caring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And cautious, you could say.
Cautious, yeah. I think it's more fearful than cautious.
Yeah. I was spinning an advantage for that version. But so now Alice has to deal with this, and they have an out for, the timid Alice ends up kind of trapping the other one for a bit.
Yeah, for a bit.
That all ends up, they realize that that's not going to work, so they end up having to work together. And they're able to pull the spell together and free Harriet and recombine her.
And Alice supposedly recombines herself. That happens off screen though, so.
Yeah, so we don't know what's going on there. It'd be kind of interesting if she didn't.
It would be kind of interesting if she didn't, yeah.
But Harriet, now that she's come back together, has a little piece of information for her mom that's going to kind of change her mom's position, because now that they fulfilled this deal with Zelda is now going to give them the information they want, but she's doing so reluctantly. But what Harriet ends up telling her could very well change that and switch her allegiances, which is that Zelda has like a mentor in the library that she like really respects. And this is somebody we've seen before that kind of took her side when they've had these meetings about what to do with different things. We should also mention we talked about the whole bloodworm thing.
Well, yeah, we have a scene earlier with the library deciding what to do about the bloodworm thing, and with Zelda present, at this meeting, and then the head of the library, the order.
Her mentor, Zelda's mentor that you're talking about.
He comes up with this plan that, they'll just give hedge witches a sigil, which will prevent them from doing magic. And then she's kind of like, well, wait, what? You're going to just, and he's like, oh no, we're not going to force people to do this. It's going to be voluntary. It's going to be strictly for their safety. And once
and reversible, yes.
It's going to be reversible. He says, once the danger from this has passed, then we will remove it for free.
Yes.
So it sounds like very reasonable and very generous. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess they aren't flat out evil.
Or are they? Because Harriet has information. She says that when she was in the mirror world, she saw everything. And Zelda, so you saw everything I was doing? And Harriet's like, yes, but I mean, I saw everything everyone was doing. And she mentions Zelda's mentor and what his real plan is, which is that if you have magical threats, and you create a fear that these magical threats are going to die if they use magic, and then they present a solution to temporarily take magic. Well, now they've taken control. The only people that can use magic are the ones that are loyal to them.
Right. Yeah. So now they've made it so that the only people who can use magic are the ones loyal to them. That's the plan.
More than that they're not just being opportunistic. This is an opportunity they created themselves.
Yeah, because it turns out that the order, the library, are the terrorists.
Yes, they're the ones that are creating this bloodworm issue that this terrorist group is implanting, and we get to see one of the characters we know get bloodworm put into his head.
Since we had that scene where Zelda was in on that meeting where they were making plans about it, so we clearly know that they are hiding all this from Zelda herself. So
yeah. Exactly. Well, we don't know how much the whole order knows, or if it's just the one guy.
Or if we don't don't know if it's just the one guy who knows about this.
But we do know now that Pete, aka Lovelady, has a bloodworm in his head. So he's probably going to get this mark and get magic removed from him. And then, now it's somebody that Katie knows, and now it's personal.
Yes, now it's personal.
But yeah, so that's kind of where we're set up. As we said, there's not like a lot of like big moments. It's just a lot of like setup, for storylines that are moving forward. Like we're kind of getting more of a picture on the library's role and everything that's going on and kind of what the fact that they are going to be straight up villains rather than kind of like a ideological difference.
Right.
We also know now that the monster who's felt a bit neutered as of late is on the precipice of something very dangerous. We just don't know what it is. And we know that
is pure setup for the next episode.
Yes.
Yeah, that's set up for the finale, actually. Come to think of it, that's like the final run is going to be to stop whatever he's actually doing.
Yes, they're gonna be working on that, and then in typical magician's formula, there's probably gonna be some other catastrophic side effect of what they do that's gonna lead into the plot for the next season.
Oh yeah, there is. The magicians don't so much save the day as they create new catastrophes in the process of stopping the current one.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of the next problem's going to be. Maybe it's going to be kind of with the monster and what he ends up creating. I'm sure that's something like that's going to end up making its way through. But yeah, that's it for the Magicians this week. So all we have left is talk about what's coming up in the week ahead.
How many episodes are left over for the season of the Magicians?
I think it's a 13 episode season. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I think it's going to, or maybe it's 12. I don't know. I think it's going to lead right up to Game of Thrones. So I think when the first episode of Game of Thrones comes out, we're going to be talking about that and the last episode of Magicians, I think.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, so here's what's coming up in the week ahead. We're recording this on Saturday, but on Friday, yesterday, March 22nd, Cardinal came to Hulu, Carlo and Malik to Netflix, Crime Diaries, The Candidate to Netflix, Delhi Crime to Netflix, Most Beautiful Thing to Netflix, and The OA came back for its second season on Netflix. This Sunday, March 24th, Into the Badlands returns to AMC. On Monday, March 25th, Nightfall comes to History. I guess Mark Hamill's in that series now?
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, it's about knights. It's history, but they did Vikings first. They did that Vikings show, so now they have one about knights.
Well, now they have knights.
Yes.
We are the knights.
I think it might be about the Templars. I'm not sure. Wednesday, March 27th, Happy returns to Sci-Fi. That's because Deadly Class just finished its first season this week.
Oh, nice.
So Happy is going to be taking its place. It's kind of a good fit because, man, I was thinking as I was watching the season finale of Deadly Class, I was like, this show can be really weird sometimes. And then I saw the commercial saying Happy's on next week, and I'm like, yeah, that fits.
Yeah, that fits. Really weird too.
You're gonna go from Deadly Class and how weird that is to right into Happy, which is super weird. But also on that day, Jane the Virgin returns to the CW, and What We Do in the Shadows comes to FX, which I'm really excited for.
That's exciting. I've seen clips where I haven't actually watched the original movie, which now I do want to actually watch it.
What's the name of the guy from Flight of the Conchords that was in Legion?
Jermaine. I know his first name is Jermaine.
Yeah, the movie was him and Taika Waititi, who is the director of Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, it was him and Taika Waititi. Obviously great actor. Obviously, I don't think they're in the show, but
I think it's a continuation. It's not like a remake or something.
Okay,
so it's different characters, but the same kind of general premise.
I know the one actor from the Garth Marenghi Dark Place is in it.
Yes.
I forget his name, but he is hilarious.
There's also one of the guys in it is actually in Deadly Class.
He was also in It Crowd too. If you've seen the It Crowd.
But it's funny because one of the guys in it that's not one of the vampires, but he's like one of the assistants to the vampire or whatever. He was in Deadly Class that just ended this last week. So he's just got a thing for Wednesdays, I guess.
Oh, I guess so.
He just has to be on a Wednesday show. So Deadly Class ends and the next week he's in What We Do in the Shadows. But yeah, that looks really good. That looks like it's going to be a really funny show. I haven't seen the movie either. I believe it's on Amazon. So I'm going to have to check that out, probably tomorrow or something, just so I can watch it before the show starts.
That's what I was thinking too. I've actually watched some clips on YouTube, and so I gotta watch the whole thing.
Then on Thursday, March 28th, Abby's comes to NBC. Don't really know much about that, but another one that some people might be interested in is Tacoma FD, which is coming to True TV, and this is a lot of the actors, I guess, from
Lizard.
What?
It's Broken Lizard.
Yes, it's some of the actors from Super Troopers, but instead of police officers, they're fire department.
It's Broken Lizard. So instead of like it's Broken Lizard because that's like that's the comedy troupe. They did Super Troopers. They did Club Dread, which I don't think was particularly well received.
But Super Troopers was.
Super Troopers.
And this is more along those lines. It's like, because it's fire department versus police department, but the same kind of idea in general.
And instead of a movie, this is a TV series.
Yes.
So it's interesting.
So I know some people are probably going to be enjoying that. Then on Friday, March 29th, Hannah comes to Amazon Prime. I watched the pilot episode. They put it up, I think, right after the Super Bowl, just for like 24 hours. You could watch it on Amazon Prime. The rest of the season drops on March 29th. It's based on a movie it was a pretty good movie. The TV show was really interesting too. So I'm actually really excited to watch some more of that. Harlots returns to Hulu. Osmosis back on Netflix. On My Block comes for its second season on Netflix. The Santa Clarita Diet comes back to Netflix, and Traitors to Netflix. So as usual, Friday means Netflix.
I see, yeah.
Though the show I'm most excited about that Friday is Hannah, because I've already seen the pilot and I liked it. So. But yeah, good week. Got the OA kick things off. We got Happy and What We Do in the Shadows on Wednesday. That's going to be a big night. Tacoma FD from Broken Lizard, as you said. And then on Friday we got Hannah and Santa Clarita Diet and some other stuff. It's a big week for some good TV shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It on all fronts, it's shaping up to be a pretty exciting spring.
Yes. Yes. We had talked before this podcast about how April is going to be just an epic month for TV and movies.
Yeah, just an epic month. If you love TV and movies, you're going to love April.
Yeah. So that's it for the show. Next week, we are going to be joined by Nick as we play a round of Advocates of Great Television to celebrate our 200th episode. The shows that we will be discussing in that episode are The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot, which is available on Amazon Prime, The Umbrella Academy, Season 1, Episode 1, We Only See Each Other at Weddings and Funerals, which is available on Netflix, and Rectify, Season 1, Episode 1, Always There, which is also available on Netflix. That will be our 200th episode. Until then, you can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. And you can subscribe to this podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. The entire backlog of our podcast is also available on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you only get like the most recent 3 episodes or so. It's SoundCloud. They let us have about 3 hours of content. But so if you want to watch an older episode, the entire backlog is on our YouTube channel. And all of that can be accessed just by going to our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can find all the links there. So thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best